To hell with the date on your birth certificate. Let's talk about what we have in common across generations. Life, sex, and tech at any age. Welcome to Age Blind with Nancy Shenker.
Hey, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Age Blind. And today I'm recording remotely from Las Vegas, Nevada, where I happen to be for the bar and restaurant show. And thanks to the wonders of Riverside, I could record from anywhere with anyone. And it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, where you are, you can be age blind. So with that as an intro, I am super excited about today's guests. I've been telling people that I have a dominatrix coming on my show, and people think that they're going to see somebody who's clad from head to toe in black leather and holding a cat o' nine tails and calling you a worthless little bitch. But that is not what's going to happen today, unless you deserve to be punished. But as we'll discuss, BDSM and power play is not just about beating people up and calling people names. It's about getting pleasure from the balance of power, which frankly, we all do in our daily lives. You know, just look at the world in which we're living, and I'm not going to get political, but in Washington, it's all about power plays. In big business, it's all about power plays. And in male, female, and same-sex dynamics, there's always a balance of power. And that, at the end of the day, is what this is all about. So, Hillary, thank you so much for coming on as a guest.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And no, I am not in all leather today. Sorry to disappoint. It's more likely latex, but no latex today. So
No latex, no leather, just Hillary with her phallic pink microphone for those of you who are watching on YouTube. And Hillary, you have to show us your microphone condom.
my little cover. So I'm not really sure what to do with it or what the purpose is, but it's so cute.
Yes, and I love the way you just were fondling it. So I use the term BDSM, which stands for bondage, domination,
Yes.
bondage, domination, submissiveness, and masochism.
It's close.
So
It's close.
yeah, what is it? BDSM is
So bondage. Shit, I'm forgetting what the D is. And I know you can edit this.
isn't it domination? Anyway, this is actually pretty funny. Like
We got to get this right.
let's just call it BDSM.
It's
But,
sadism, masochism. Now I have to know what the D is.
And you also sometimes hear the term kink.
So discipline or dominance. Yes.
Okay,
That's
cool.
That's what threw me off.
Yeah. And the reality is, as I just said, in our day-to-day lives, somebody's always in charge and somebody is submitting or they're compromising. So it's
Yeah.
not always something that's sexual, which leads me to my first question for Hillary. You use the moniker Goddess of Greatness in a lot of your branding and communication. What does that actually mean to you? Like some women might hear that and go, oh, fuck no, she's not a goddess. Who does she think she is? But I think we're all goddesses. But how did you come up with that? And what's the philosophy behind it?
Yeah, so it was very intentional. And it's funny that you bring that up because I get that a lot. And there's either two responses, and it's typically from women, right? And women are like, oh, hell yeah, like feminine empowerment, right? We're goddesses. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where it's like, why do you call yourself a goddess? Like, who do you think you are to call yourself that? And the point is, we are all goddesses. We have divine feminine energy, and we deserve to be treated like that in life, right? We deserve to be revered, adored, and worshipped in our daily life. And so many of us are not living that experience. And so that's where some of that insecurity, that triggered feeling comes from, right? Because they're like, well, I don't feel like I'm living the life of a goddess and I don't feel like I'm treated that way. So why do you think you should be? And the point is, all of us women should be. And that's the goal.
Right. And they have to find their inner goddesses. And somebody said that to me when I first got divorced and I was feeling very lost. And she said, you are a goddess. Don't forget that. And I go back to when I was a kid being dragged to synagogue And there was a prayer that we had to say every Saturday, and it translated to a woman of valor who can find, for her price is far above rubies. And I love that line. And sometimes I will chant that in my head because as we age, especially, society would have us believe that we shrivel up, our vaginas fall off, we're like constantly in a state of menopausal fog and pain, and we don't understand technology. And to that, I say, fuck no, I'm just getting started.
I have so much to talk with you about that. I just did some videos about this because I get so much backlash online from nasty men who are like, you're old. You're too old. What?
How old are you? How old are
I'm
you, Hillary?
33. I'm
Not
30.
that it matters because
I'm
we're
in my
age blind
prime.
here, but you're 33, I'm 69. I have men hitting me up all the time on Bumble, like I should want to open my legs for them just because I must be desperate at 69. But like, as I like to say, I'm the CEO of my corner office and nobody's getting in without an appointment.
Girl, that is a literal portal. And there are very few people who are deserving of it. Okay. But the whole age thing. So why is that the biggest insult towards women, that you're aging, you're old? Like, the most attractive thing in my mind would be a woman who is mentally and emotionally mature, right? Who's stable in her life, who doesn't feel like she needs to get all this external validation, who's not causing all of this drama, right? We are happy, we are stable, we are secure, we are fulfilled, we know what we like, we know what we enjoy doing. Wouldn't that be the most attractive thing as a man, right? Like looking for a woman. And so it comes down to so much of like subconscious programming, societal bullshit, like men want women who are 19 to 25 because that's what they're watching in their, adult content. And women that age are easier to manipulate. They're more naive. They're easier to control, right? They don't have these life experiences. So men can come in and give them that and help them
And
build this.
men are confused right now. They're really confused because they know that we want to be treated with respect, and they know that we know what we want. We're living in an era where women do have economic freedom, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that we don't want men or need men or love men.
Oh, not at all.
Doesn't mean that we want to control men. And
No, like we love men. And so that comes into the whole balance of feminine and masculine energy, right? We need men in their masculine and women to be in their feminine. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm helping women connect to their feminine and their sensual energy, which is embodying our inner goddess, right? Embodying that power and that presence. And we need masculine men to be the leaders, to hold that safe space so that we can be in our feminine, because the masculine is the doing and the feminine is the being. Like the feminine just exists, right? We're just here to be and bring abundance and bring creation, and men are supposed to hold that space for us. So we need both.
we do. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what your day job is in addition to being the goddess of greatness, because they do kind of tie together.
They do. So I'm an occupational therapist. And the crazy thing is I actually have a private pediatric therapy practice, and I am also a dominatrix. And so I was doing women's coaching for a long time, but it was based in wellness, so fitness and nutrition. And I realized there was so much missing about our feminine energy, our sensual energy, like truly connecting with our body. And so that's when I started doing women's coaching and energetics. And so embodying your inner goddess, but I incorporated everything that I learned as a dominatrix: the self-worth, the confidence, the setting boundaries, just knowing my value and the value of my presence.
That's actually a great segue into, I know, a conversation that you and I had. I learned the term FLR, which is a female-led relationship. So
Yeah.
if you can just tell our audience a little bit about what FLRs are and what kind of men want them and what kind of women are willing to engage in them.
Yeah. So an FLR is a female-led relationship, and it's typically where the woman is dominant and the man is submissive. So it doesn't mean that the man is not masculine, because that gets confused a lot, right? So they think just because a man is submissive, then he's very feminine, and people consider it not useful, right? Whatever that is. But so he's still masculine, but he's submissive. And so she's running the show. She's setting the boundaries. She's deciding what that relationship is going to look like. It can be to the extreme where he is her house slave and he cleans for her and he does all the errands, or it can be something more minimal to where, she's at home and she's like, hey, I want you to bring me this. Go pick me up some Uber Eats or go do these acts of service for me.
Or it could be sexual.
It could be. Yeah. Yeah. So
where men just don't want to be in charge. Some men don't want to be in charge anymore. I mean, you and I talked about a guy who is very successful professionally. And he basically said to me, I'm just tired of making all the decisions. And I had a wife who didn't work and didn't know how to do things. And I was like Charles in charge. His name was not Charles, by the way. But he's like, I am just much more comfortable and at ease. And as a professional woman who spent a lot of years raising a family, building a household, running a big team at work, there are days when I get it. I'm like, I just want to lie on my back and be tight. I hope my kids aren't listening. Be tied up and be told what to do, because it takes all the pressure off when making somebody else happy.
All the pressure, all the decision making, there is not a single thought in your brain other than your body and pleasure at that moment. And that's the point. So the majority of my clients and the men that I see are entrepreneurs, right? Alpha men who have businesses and they want a time where they're not making a million decisions a day. And so they just want to be in the presence of a gorgeous woman and a woman who is embodying her feminine energy, right? They don't want to make any decisions. They just want to be told what to do. And it's in a fun, playful energy, right? So it depends on what your style looks like, but mine tends to be more playful and sensual. So,
which is great, but then there is the extreme where some men like to be humiliated, like to be called names, like to be hit. They get a sexual charge from that style of play.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any theories on why some men really are into that?
So it can be so many things. It can be just from parenting, right? From how they grew up, from their environment. It can be from trauma. It can be from previous relationships. So there's so many things that go into someone seeking something like that. But I mean, the whole premise behind impact play is you're just getting it down to like the base of your body, right? So you're not thinking about what you're doing for lunch today. You're not thinking about work tomorrow. It brings you in the present moment, and all you can think about is literally right now being in your body. And that's something interesting because women are better at connecting with their body than men typically are. And so it's a different kind of feeling energy for them to be in when they can truly like just connect with their body, and that's it. Them in this space right here, right now, and not having all of those extraneous things to think about.
Yeah, I had a guest on the show, Lauren Goyette, who talked about sex toys and how women's bodies have all of these nerve endings. So I think especially as we get older and our bodies do change and evolve, kind of knowing what our pleasure points are. And some of them are physical, but some of them are also mental. You talked about love languages and acts of service. Sometimes the words that you're hearing could be the trigger for feelings of physical pleasure. So kind of knowing what turns you on, it sounds really simple, but it's totally different for every human.
For everyone. Yeah. And even in terms of domination, I mean, most of what I do is psychological and verbal domination, right? There's so much psychology behind that. And every single person is different. You could say one phrase to someone that is so off-putting to the next person, right? So it's not a one size fits all. And that's a problem because the profession tends to get very diluted because everyone thinks it's just, oh, I tell someone these things and then, they want to pay me.
Exactly. You dress in black latex and you go, you're a naughty boy. And then you smack him with a whip or chain while he's wearing a mask.
You've been a bad boy and you're going to buy me a Birkin. Like, no, that's not it. Right. And it's a therapeutic art. There's so much healing that goes into, these sessions, and people are rewiring traumas and memories and brain chemistry while you're doing this. So it's a responsibility,
Yeah, I actually wrote a blog post once about triggers because, I'm continually doing work on myself, and I've come to realize that when people criticize my writing or some project I've done, like I can feel like how my body is reacting to that
Mm-hmm.
because, and again, as you said, it has its roots in childhood
Yeah.
where how I respond to feedback
Mm-hmm.
is very primitive and very childlike. And, you know, I don't like being insulted or abused or called names. And when that happens, I feel physically what happens to myself. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really, really important if our listeners and viewers take one thing away from this conversation, it should be like really get to know your body and your mind
Yeah.
and do the work on yourself. Because without doing the work on yourself, you can't possibly bring other people into your life
Oh,
and
yeah. Yeah.
figure that all out. And it's never too early and never too late. Well, could be too early. My show is geared for viewers 21 and older, but it is never too early or too late to really get in touch with your mind and your body and where those two things connect.
Yeah. And your body is always going to tell you, right? Because we can logic away those thoughts. We can say, oh, that's, I'm not really thinking that. I don't really feel that way. That doesn't make sense. But your body is always going to tell you, like those visceral reactions that you feel, that means that there is a, right, deep rooted trauma, memory, something related to that. And so you'll know, like you're going to feel it.
And ladies, for those of you who are listening or watching, something Hillary and I talked about before about instead of saying, why does she think she's a goddess? We should flip that around and say, what is it about me that is goddess like? And how do I leverage that? Because we all have a goddess living inside us. We all have an invisible crown and we're all good at something. So rather than comparing ourselves to other women and saying, oh, she's got a flatter stomach, she's taller, she's got a hotter boyfriend, we need to look for our own inner goddess.
Yeah. And that all comes down to self worth. Knowing your worth and knowing your value, everything builds upon that. So then you're building your self love, then you're building your confidence, right? Then you're building your presence when you're out in public. And so many women come to me and they're like, well, how do I get that confidence? How do I feel good about this? It all comes down to self worth.
Exactly. And I personally, you talked about, occupational therapy and training. I found that weightlifting twice a week has been incredible in terms of my building my self-confidence, building my energy level, impacting what's going on inside here and my head and my heart. Every
Yeah.
time I'm able to lift 25 more pounds, it's like an amazing feeling of accomplishment, which
Yeah.
is a good cure for feeling like you're getting old and feeble.
Hmm.
So I have to ask this question before we wrap up, Hillary. I am a fashionista, so I do have to ask you. I know you've been a bathing suit model at Miami Fashion Week. You're very tall and beautiful, and I always like looking at your pictures on social media. And I followed your whole journey where you were like, fuck it, I'm going to go model Miami Fashion Week. And you just went and did it. And that was huge inspiration to me in
Oh,
terms
thank
of doing
you.
things that you think might be impossible. But what is your
Yeah.
favorite dominatrix outfit?
My favorite dominatrix outfit, this has just changed recently. Typically before that, it was like kind of a bondage bodysuit. Now it is my latex catsuit. There is something about head to toe latex. And so because I am really tall, I had to get it custom made, right? And so there's something also about being sexy, but being covered, right? So like my body is head to toe covered in latex, but it is so sexy. It is so erotic. Like just looking at that is so sensual. So that is my favorite Dom outfit for sure.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, I buy my Halloween costumes every year from a company called Bedinka, which is in, I think, Bulgaria. And they specialize in making jumpsuits for raves. But there are these like mesh zip up
Yeah.
bodysuits. There is
Mhm.
nothing as empowering for a woman as wearing a
Yes.
bodysuit.
Hmm.
Like it channels your inner Catwoman. So I'm right there with you, Hillary, on the head to toe bodysuit. And if you are going for a little more feminine thing, like just there are bodysuits that are not made out of black latex. But yeah,
Yes.
fashion could really be a positive trigger in helping you find your inner goddess.
It can be. Yeah. And you want to feel good in your clothes, right? Like, okay, I do have something to say on that real quick. So I was going to an event last night. It was this red carpet event, and I bought this like bronze dress and it had these feathers up top. And I was like, is this too much? And then I caught that thought and I was like, no, no, no. I am a goddess. I do not need to feel like I need to dress to make other people feel comfortable and dim myself, right? Make myself smaller to make other people comfortable. So I wore this stunning dress, and the amount of compliments, the amount of women that came up to me and just wanted to talk to me about what I do, right? And so they're like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I help women embody their inner goddess." And they're like, "Of course you do." So own what you do in your clothing, like in what you wear, put it out there.
Oh, for sure. When I launched my new personal brand, Nancy AF, I worked with a fashion stylist who helped me update my brand look. And I just spent 2 days at this trade show, and I was wearing my Free People pants and my Free People tops or Levi's top with a little bit of
Mhm,
midriff showing and my gold custom Converse sneakers.
mhm,
And people
mhm.
were stopping me in the aisles saying, "I love your look." They weren't saying, "Oh, a 69-year-old woman shouldn't be wearing that outfit," because
Mhm.
it didn't matter. I was
Yeah.
exuding my inner bougie, badass hippie, which is what my brand is all about.
Yeah, yeah. You owned it. And you had that presence and that confidence, you know?
So if any of our listeners, especially, women and men of a certain age, if you're really having trouble channeling your inner goddess or your inner badass, please reach out to me, and Hillary and I will work with you on a goddess makeover or a god makeover. You could be Thor, you could be Athena, you could be whoever you want to be, which is the beauty of the world in which we're
Mhm.
living. Just, always just be you. So, Hillary, anything else you'd like to leave our audience with? You are terrific. I'm a total fangirl.
So for the women, I want you all to know that you are inherently worthy just because you exist. So you are worthy, you are valuable, and you are an absolute goddess. So that is the message that I want women to take away from today.
Love that. Love that. And how could people find you?
And you can find me on Goddess Guidance Official. That is my website. That is my Instagram, my TikTok, all socials.
And follow along. Hillary's always going on some great adventures. You could see her feathered dress on social media. It really was badass. I love it. I was going to ask you where you got it. Although I have enough clothes right now. I don't think I need to do any more shopping. And please, please, please subscribe to nancyaf.com. That is my new personal brand. I still have my marketing company. So I've got my business side and what I call my party side. Although you know, there's some crossover, but I talk about sex, life, and tech at any age. That is the whole meaning behind Age Blind. So whether you're 21 or 101, keep on listening, keep on watching. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you happen to get your content. And please follow me. My IG handle is nancyaf_. Thank you all for listening. And thank you, Hillary, for being such an awesome guest. Hopefully, our listeners have learned that BDSM is not all about whips and chains. And I thought it was kind of funny that neither of us really knew what it stood for, but I will have to publish a updated glossary of sex and life terms. So thank you all again, and peace out.
Yes.